We're really excited about this topic today. I know our team has really been looking forward to this, and I hope you have been as well. Great. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen and we'll kick this off. So welcome everyone. My name's Gwen Stembridge. I'm the Director of Education and Partnerships at Nonprofit Vote. And you're here for Thinking Outside the Clipboard, Creative Approaches to Voter Engagement. And we'll spend the next hour or so hearing from two wonderful speakers about some of their creative and artistic approaches to voter engagement. Often in our work, we have folks that come to us saying, okay, I want to do voter engagement. I'm inspired to do voter engagement. I feel, ready in some ways, but also they say, okay, but what do I do? What does that even look like? And so we've got some really creative and kind of out of the box ideas and some speakers that have worked outside of those boxes and in really creative and artistic ways. So I'm excited for them to share. The other thing about this topic is that it is not just about voter engagement. This is about kind of year-round engagement and civics, right? If someone is going to feel motivated to vote, they're going to have to care who is in office and what that person and those people are doing when they're in office. How are they making decisions? What is influencing them? What are the decisions that they're making, and what are all of those impacts? So this is really looking at not just the lead up to a November election day, but really year round, how can we be sure that civics and that voter engagement is part of that conversation year round and at all times? So with that, I am going to move to our announcements and housekeeping. There will be a Q&A, a question and answer session at the end of this webinar. So please do put your questions in the Q&A box at the bottom or at the top of your screen. You should have a black box or toolbar there. And so there's a Q&A section. Please put questions there. As you can see from the chat, there is we're very active in the chat, which is great. We don't want questions to get lost there. Wanted to let you know also that a recording of the webinar will be sent within the next week or so, also with any resources that are mentioned there. And then the other thing I wanted to let folks know about is that we have a live captioner today. So if you'd like to see those captions, you should be able to click more in your toolbar and then have access to those captions. If you have questions about accessibility with that, please do reach out to the hosts and panelists. You should be able to message us and let us know. The other thing is that we encourage you to send encouragements and reactions to the panelists and to our speakers today. So that little react button that's got a little heart over it. If you really appreciate something that someone is saying, or you're really excited, or this really pumps you up, then please do share those as well. Great. So wanted to just give you a preview of our agenda today. We've done the welcome and housekeeping. I'm going to tell you a little bit about Nonprofit Vote for folks who may not be as familiar. Then I'm going to pass it to our speakers to each do a little bit of an introduction of themselves and also their organizations. So excited about that. And then we're going to have a discussion about the work that they are doing, voter engagement. How do we do this work in this moment? So I'm really looking forward to that. And then we'll have the Q&A section. Then our team comes from a community of community organizers. And so I cannot leave you without a call to action. So we have that, and then we'll close out at the top of the hour. So looking forward to this. Who is Nonprofit Vote? Nonprofit Vote has been around. We are celebrating 20 years this year. And thank you, Little Penguin, for celebrating that with us. We have been doing this work to equip and empower nonprofits to do voter engagement with the communities that they serve. So that looks like a lot of different things, but essentially it is to support you and give you the tools and resources that you need to meet voters where they are and community members where they are. And the vision behind all of that is making sure that we are building a more inclusive democracy where our communities are actually represented and can show up. A few things about what our work looks like. We've got a resource library that is free to everyone. There are tools and templates and all kinds of things you can pull from that resource library. Feel free to use them. Give us credit. That's great. We love that. But do please, they're there for free. Please use them. We also have a free national webinar series, and you are here at one of our webinars. We do these monthly-ish. We had two this month, one that was on the Voting Rights Act and the Calais case. The next one that we have is around elections and safety in general. I know there's been lots of questions around elections and safety, and so that's our next topic for July. So please stay tuned for that. We also have some research-based partner case studies, so stories about nonprofits that are doing this work. We have a blog that gives explanations. One of my favorite recent explanations that we have is around the USPS changes that recently came down there that do impact mail-in ballots. So that's one to pay attention to, but that nonprofit vote blog also explains some of the policy things that have been happening recently that impact voting and nonprofits. So please do check that out. And then we have customized trainings. If you are interested in any of these topics that we're talking through, we can come to your audience. If it's your network, your organization, your group of volunteers, we can show up and work with you to make sure that you have what you need to do voter engagement in your community. And then lastly, but certainly not least, we are the lead managing partner for National Voter Registration Day. September 15th is that day this year. So please, if you are not already a community partner, please do sign up to be a National Voter Registration Day partner. So I'll breathe after that because that was a lot to give you. Before I turn to our speakers. So first we have Morgan Fernari, who is the Arts Action Fund Manager with Americans for the Arts. We're super excited about this work and the potential collaborations that exist between you all and artists. Have you even thought about incorporating artists into the voter engagement work that you're doing? If you have not, then Morgan is your person to tell you a little bit more about that. And then next we'll have Evan Weissman, who is the founding executive director of Warm Cookies of the Revolution. As we put in the description, cookies are not included in this webinar, unfortunately, but if you brought your own, then we welcome you to eat cookies during the webinar. That is welcome and encouraged. I met Evan at a workshop that he was doing last year and got really excited about this work. And so invited him to come be a part of this. So we're really, really excited about what these speakers have to say. So I'm going to turn it over to Morgan to introduce herself.
Great. Thank you, Gwen. Hi, everybody. I am so excited to be here representing Americans for the Arts and the Arts Action Fund. I myself am based out of Miami, Florida, and I go back and forth to Washington, D.C., where our organizations are based. I saw some Florida people in there, so I wanted to shout us out. And I'm really excited to share more about what we do with you all today. Wonderful. Hello, hello. So, we are Americans for the Arts and the Arts Action Fund, and we are, like I said, based in Washington, D.C., and are nonprofits that are all about arts advocacy across the country. So, How do we work? So we advocate, connect, learn, and lead. That is what we specialize in. So it's all about, like Gwen said, year-round advocacy. So we're going to talk about year-round civic engagement, but our specialization is in advocacy, and we work with the federal, state, and local levels in policies and making sure that the arts and culture are at the forefront of our political discussions. So the Arts Action Fund actually specifically is a 501(c)(4) that activates a nationwide network. So you might be saying, oh, maybe I'm not an artist, I don't run an arts organization, but we also love arts appreciators. We want everyone to get involved because what we've been through over the last couple of years, I think the arts are a great way to connect us all in that creativity and the innovation that we all are able to bring. So it's not only about artists and arts organizations, but everyone. So we also want to connect. We want to be a part of our everyday lives in every community across the country. So through AFTACON, which is our big convening, this year it was in Albuquerque, New Mexico. We just had it at the beginning of June. It was wonderful. It has this place where we can convene arts leaders and appreciators from across the country and find an alignment in our strategy for the rest of the year and the years to come. And of course, learn and lead. So we have an incredible research team and that creates tools and just always tries to be at the forefront of what is happening. How can we measure our impact? And how can we limit the barriers that are in place and expand accessibility to the arts and culture across the country and thereby strengthen the communities that we are a part of? So that's how we work. So I just wanted to give a quick understanding of who we are and why we've separated the two organizations. So Americans for the Arts is a 501(c)(3) charity nonprofit, which I'm sure a lot of you in the audience are today, and a lot of our membership is as well. So, and then the Arts Action Fund is a 501(c)(4) organization, which is a social welfare nonprofit. So they have a lot of things in common, regulated by the IRS, organizations pay no income tax, and then we get to the differences. So a 501(c)(3) like Americans for the Arts can take a tax deduction from their charitable contributions, whereas a contribution to a 501(c)(4) is not tax deductible. And here's where it's really important. 501(c)(3)s have a 5% budgetary limit on lobbying, whereas 501(c)(4)s have no budgetary limit on lobbying. So we can just have a little bit of that extra reach. And that's why we really focus at the Arts Action Fund on grassroots and direct lobbying. And then on the charity side, again, they are 100% expressly prohibited from doing electioneering work, whereas a 501(c)(4) has a 49.9% budget, so almost that halfway mark, and are able to do some influencing of an election. So I'm going to talk about that and why it's important coming soon. So right away, something that we do in our work in terms of elections is our federal candidate survey. So in the past, the Arts Action Fund has hosted our Arts Vote campaign, which I'll talk about in a second. But we've realized that there were barriers for 501(c)(3)s to get involved, or they had a lot of fear around getting involved. So we wanted to make sure that we could have something that was compliant for 501(c)(3) nonprofits to use. So we've created a federal candidate survey that leans with arts and culture ideals, but also has other questions, more open-ended questions. We've gone through lawyers, and we found that this is a compliant 501(c)(3) survey. There's a lot of rules around sharing that survey, so please do your research. You need to make sure that you're still being nonpartisan in your work, but it's something that we've done in the past that we want to continue to formulate. So now I'm going to get into what do we do? We have a great Get Out the Vote campaign called Arts Vote. And like I said, in the past, it's only been under the Arts Action Fund, but we wanted to expand. So we wanted to show 501(c)(3) nonprofits that they couldn't get involved too. So Americans for the Arts has joined us to showcase another 501(c)(3) who has gotten involved. So I want to talk about the artistry behind our campaign. Since 2020, we've used artwork by Shepard Fairey of Obey Giant, and it's been absolutely incredible to have his work. It's strong, it's poised, and it showcases how we can all work together. But we want to expand. We want to have more artists involved. We don't want just one. We want a whole collective. So we've also been working now with designer Bob Faust and sculptor Nick Cave on this new artwork. And it kind of is it's really cool to see this cross-disciplinary work and those visuals of the hands connecting, the megaphones. It's sending the exact message that we want to keep sending. And so that coalition keeps building. Not only have two pieces to keep going. We want to include as many people as we can. Dances, we want to have songs. We want to have everything under the sun to get people involved. And for the future, we want to stay urgent and we don't want to limit ourselves to only talking about this during a voting year. In the past, it's always been geared up in an election year, but civic engagement and voting it needs to be talked about all the time so that people can get comfortable. Right now, there's such a fear around I don't know what to do. I don't know how to sign up. Laws and regulations change so often around voting. How do we get people comfortable? How do we get people excited? So that's what Arts Vote is trying to answer. So this is my perfect example of how do we get people involved? How do we get people creating with us? So our Arts Vote logo, we're kind of creating this opportunity for people to make their own. So you have the stencil, but you can make it what you want. And that gets people collaborating. It gets people excited to be a part of something. We all have, received a social media graphic that's like, okay, share this, share that. But this is one of those opportunities to say, create this, create that. And that's something we're really focusing on as we move forward. Something else that we're looking at is, of course, social media is so, so important. And that same thing, how do we imbue the sense of identity into the campaign? So what you're seeing here, we're going to have a marketing toolkit coming soon, a national marketing campaign. We have webinars. All of that is fantastic and it's standard. But how do we continue to push it forward? So something like this, where someone can put their actual face behind. I'm an arts voter. They're claiming an identity. They're showcasing their own. They can put their art behind it. They can put a video of them dancing, of them showcasing, like Gwen said earlier, that joy of being a part of something. And we want to continue to make things like this that people can get involved with. And finally, talking about convenings. We're going to talk more about, we've seen the tabling, we see the flyering. What else can we do to get communities collectively involved together? Now, we're a national organization, right? So when we go into a city, we need to figure out how do we get to know this city best? How do we customize an event, an activation for this place? So what you need to do is you need to build coalitions. You need to reach out to that community and say, who are the arts leaders? Who are the civic leaders? What are the local businesses that fuel your main streets? How do you bring people together? And this is one of our examples how. So we just had, like I said a little bit earlier, our national convention called AFTACON in Albuquerque, New Mexico, where we did our first Arts Vote Bazaar. So maybe you've heard of things like Party at the Polls and, you have tables at festivals. Well, this was something where we said, we want to get arts that maybe people don't think about. Nail techs. They're artists. We have patchwork. They had to design those patches and they put them on. We got temporary tattoos. We didn't think a tattoo artist. We didn't want people to commit too much to it. But of course, temporary tattoos, buttons, ping pong, and we had a bar. It was fun. It was this exciting kind of swanky thing. And we had a DJ. You bring music, you bring people together, get them dancing, get them connecting. And so that's what we were able to do, along with educating on their voting rules in their states, showing them where to go to get more information, and telling them about what we are doing in the educational realm to get them excited and connected to us. So think outside the box. Think of who is included in your community already that you can build a coalition, come together, and figure out how to do it as one. So that's a little snippet of who we are and what we do, and I'm excited to keep on chatting about this with Evan and Gwen a little later. Thanks all.
Thank you so much, Morgan. All right, we'll pass it to Evan next.
All right. Thank you, Morgan. That was lovely. Okay, I'm a shower. I like to show what we do. So let me start with let's see. I'm gonna start with this. This is a video That recently was made for by PBS on our Tax Day Carnival.
Side of Denver, we attended one of the more eccentric examples of a grassroots civic effort. Lucha Libre wrestlers were only part of the draw for the Tax Day Carnival.
Maybe you're proud to pay. Maybe you're like, what in the world is going on? What's this money? What's happening? Either way, it's carnival.
Adrian Molina was an inaugural fellow with New America's Us at 250 initiative. And he's one of the forces behind the group memorably named Warm Cookies of the Revolution.
We are a civic health club. And for us, it's all about bringing people together, people who may not normally come together at the same place at the same time. And our vehicles for doing that are arts, culture, and fun.
Leading with fun meant face painting, circus performers, and free food. And carnival games that incorporate ideas around how society pays for what it needs.
I thought that we would be handing over our W-2s to somebody as we stood in line, and maybe we would get a lemonade.
Amanda Donnelly brought her granddaughter. It's the first Warm Cookies event she's attended.
Understanding that we can come together and even if we have differences, enjoy each other's company and be together in community is really important. And I think that's what America was founded on, right? Some people with a shared vision enacting it.
Warm Cookies also has programming focused on suburban communities and a project targeted to rural areas called Future Town, which reimagines what small towns could be. The concept, like the Tax Day Carnival, is to lead with elements that will engage a cross-section of people.
We're thinking about civics in new ways, and we're thinking broadly. And so, for example, if you bring a group of Democrats together to have a hard conversation with a group of Republicans, we know how that conversation is going to go. We've seen that play out for generations. We're trying to open up space for new connections to be made.
I didn't know that the civic conversation was going to happen, but we came because we were drawn to it with the lucha libre, with the mariachi, with the food. But then now once the community is here, it's like a good way of attracting us.
Maria Monclova is an immigration attorney who's from this neighborhood.
Right now with everything happening, I think it's very important for a community to celebrate what the country was based on, which is immigrants, which is diversity, which is getting involved. And this is a great opportunity for our community to get together, especially right now that we're celebrating the 250th anniversary.
This is the semi-quincentennial year. It also happens to be Colorado's 150th. Is that an opportunity, do you think, for the work that you're doing, a special opportunity?
It's a big opportunity. We feel like as people are thinking about this long history, and we're thinking about it as a history, but also a beginning. It's a bookmark. We've experienced a lot of chapters. There are more chapters ahead, and we can write this next 250 years any way that we wish.
So, Tax Day Carnival, that shows a bit of what we do. So we call ourselves a civic health club. You want to see your muscles grow a little bit when you go to the gym. You want to feel it. And so where do we do that for our civic muscles? And what I'm going to say to you all today, this is not a smart thing to do, which is I'm going to say that that I actually think that what we do 364 days out of the year, I elevate that. And it's not to disparage voting in elections, as you all know, those are incredibly important. But this is the type of thing that we think what is most nourishing for most people when our election system for a lot of people has become kind of fast food. It feels like fast food for a lot of people. So, all right, civics. Let's talk about it a little bit. So here, vote every day. That's our motto. And we, as this picture shows, we think that us down here, these little red guys, we have more power. We weigh more than maybe the animals up there. So think about everything that you own for a second. I like to ask people to do this. You think about it. Just picture your room in your house right now. Shirts, jewelry, pencil, phone, lunch. What else? What else do you own, right? So think about those things. What most of us do not think about are these things. roads, buses, bicycle paths, schools, libraries, rec centers, parks, police, fire departments, jails, the internet, radio, drinking water, air. And when you recognize that we do all own those things, then it's a privilege and a responsibility to take care of them. And that is what I mean when I say civic. So it's a much more expansive view than I think what a lot of people learn, which is that it has to do with voting in elections. Take another 10 seconds and think about where you live. How's the air quality? What kind of transportation is available? What jobs are nearby where you live? Do most people look like you? Do you feel safe? Is there access to nature? What kind of food is available? Are the roads and the sidewalks maintained? Okay. Why? Who decided that? When? How? Most likely, this was not done by a vote. And not only most likely, it wasn't. There wasn't a vote on all of this stuff. It was a series of decisions over time. And so the trick is, how do we get people every day to feel that accomplishment that you all know when you are engaging people in voter engagement, and you see what it means when someone maybe didn't know something and then they get engaged and then they go and they vote, and that feeling of feeling like you did something, you put that I voted sticker on, it's beautiful. How do we do that 364 days out of the year, like Morgan was alluding to? So for us, we think, people have such limited time and resources. So you spend it on what you have to, and then you do it on whatever you love, whatever you dig. So I put on here, in the last year, did you go to live music or sports or shopping mall or restaurant, religious service, movie, whatever the thing is that you like to do, you do that. And it's made easier. Those barriers are made really easy to go watch an NFL game or a World Cup right now. You know what bar to go to. You know what kind of specials they're going to be. It doesn't feel that way for most people on a zoning decision, on tax decisions. They're not marketed that way. So that's kind of what this is. Like, you went to those things. Now you all are kind of, I'm going to go out on a limb and say you all are kind of civic nerds. So I bet a lot of you have gone to zoning meetings or school board meetings and whatnot. But for the regular folks, only if there's an emergency are they going to something like that. And it's probably too late. And so those barriers that Gwen was talking about too, and Morgan as well, for both voter engagement and for the arts, it's the same thing. When are these meetings taking place? Is there childcare? Is it accessible for folks with disabilities? What languages is it in? So these are all things that we try to work on. And this is what we say is that, they're scientists, they have labs with chemistry instruments and beakers and whatever the hell scientists do. Chefs, same thing. They have ingredients and spices and all that. Where do we do that? Where do we learn to use civic power? Because I also want to make sure that when I talk about civics, it's not just like everybody is on the same playing field level and we all just need to step in and do something. It's huge power imbalances. And so we shouldn't be afraid of that power. It exists whether we want it to or not. So how do we learn how to do that? And we think that you experiment by gathering with your neighbors, sharing resources, crafting legislation in some cases, celebrating your culture. And they always say you don't learn how to swim by reading a book. You have to jump in. So I'm going to show another quick little video.
Warm Cookies of the Revolution, we are a civic health club. A place where you go to exercise your civic muscles. The way that you would go to a gym for your physical health, and you want to look good if you go to a gym. You want to see results. Well, the same way for our civic life, but where do you do that? Where do you possibly go where you can meet with other people in the community and you can engage and you can wrestle with and disagree and figure out who owns what, who makes decisions in your community. But the main issue is that for most people and most parts of our community, it's boring and it's difficult. So what we do at Warm Cookies is we try to lower the barriers to entry. We always have childcare. We always have interpretation for different languages. We make it fun because our competition is Netflix. Our competition is church. Our competition is sports. Our competition is music shows and movies. That's where people spend their time and their money, if they have any of it, after working really hard and raising their families. So we owe it to our community to make the programs we do as absolutely fun and meaningful as possible. And it's going to be something cultural or artistic so that people want to come and engage in these issues, and then they leave knowing and having tools to what they can do to take action. What we've been doing for decades in this country doesn't work. And we know it doesn't work because civic life has become voting. And civic life has become a red team, blue team. And we know that what we're doing gets past that, gets deeper than that, and ultimately has the ability to transform our communities in a way that voting and partisanship never will and never has.
The last thing I'll say is, or just to show you, these are our programs. And so like almost 50 of these that are different ones. And I'm happy to talk about some of them if you all would like. But some of these, these top 3 or these top 2 are Suburb Futures and Future Town. They're ongoing. Interdependence Day is actually what's coming up next. It's sort of an alternative 4th of July. And some of these are continually happen. Sunday School for Atheists is exactly what it sounds like. The People Versus here is a mock trial where we put things on trial that never go on trial, like the media or having children or God or our monetary system or AI. We've done a lot in rural areas on AI recently. So as you can see, they're fun looking. These, and we market them like events, not like come to this community conversation about X, Y, Z. But everything that you see right here has that. So How to Survive a Zombie Apocalypse was very much about coalition building. But we just didn't start with, let's talk about coalition building. We made it into a game. So yeah, we have there's a lot of these. I'm happy to talk about any of these that you want. And then maybe when we get to the next section, I could show you a little bit. Again, that's like this one, This Machine Has a Soul, which was a very specific way that art and creativity was used to change not just a policy, but a system, like a systemic issue in our community. So I'm sure I'm probably over time, so I'll stop.
Great. And as you can see from the chat and the reactions, folks are excited about this. And I think there's no need to apologize for a shot at voting, right? We all know, because we're doing this work, that there are things that we're doing that are working great. And there are things that we're doing that, like, we've just been doing it the same way, and it's like feels like it's hitting our head against a wall sometimes. And so we've got to take a step back and say, okay, what can we change here? What do we need to adjust? What is engaging? And like you're saying, folks are going to spend their money and their time somewhere. We want them to engage in this. So I think this is all really, really valuable. So I have a couple questions to kind of pose to both of you to keep this conversation going. I, first of all, just want to acknowledge, I think we all have a picture in our minds of what voter engagement might look like, right? Walking into this session, or when you first started doing this work, you probably had a picture of that. I know for me, it involves a clipboard and like someone at, maybe a farmer's market or walking down the street or something like that, asking me am I registered to vote? And I think there are things that, like I said, work about those methods, but there are also things that don't work about those methods. Can you all just speak to a little bit? Your organizations are not doing that in that very limited way, right? So why not? What was not working about that, and what is working really well about the work that you're doing? And I can pass to Morgan first, give you a breather, Evan.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, it's so interesting as a national organization. Everywhere you go is so completely different. Every community has different needs. And so when you're thinking of it in this kind of type 1 way, right? Like you're just thinking of a table and a clipboard, you're limiting yourself to customizing. I mean, Evan, first of all, that was so cool. I love learning about what you're doing. And it gets me excited as well because it's like, how can we partner with groups like yours, with groups that are already so integrated and wanting to be a part of the arts and culture in their communities and use that to uplift what that community needs, right? So you need to think outside the box in order to create that trust as well. I don't necessarily, if I'm walking down the street, I don't know this person coming up to me. I don't know if they agree with what I believe in. I'm not instantly going to trust them, but if you're creating an event where you're bringing people together, you're showcasing that we love and we respect your culture. We want you to be a part of this. It creates like this safe environment to be able to have those conversations, especially in a time where a lot of people feel unsafe. So, how do you make sure that that is achieved? And I think a lot of that is by imbuing with the arts, with culture, allowing people to create their own spaces and being there to facilitate and uplift that. So, although you need to have that clipboard with the information, you need to have that table that people can sit down and fill out their information, have the pamphlets. You need to have more around it. And I think you can do that by creating it yourself, or if you don't have the funds to create something yourself, partner with other groups that are already doing events. And I know we'll talk about that in a second too, but that's kind of my outlook on it. But Evan?
Yeah, I think, I'm an artist, and I had like a quite successful career in as an actor and a director and writer, playwright, and that's like I came to this from that perspective, and this is like an artistic challenge, and so I, I'm sort of obsessed about this, and I think if something's working, then do it. So if for certain communities going and having the table and the clipboard, if that's working, then do it. And that's kind of the system as a whole. Is the system working for you and your community? Then you don't need to be you don't need to do anything. That's the privilege of being part of the status quo in whatever way that is. Maybe your community is just very inclusive and incredible, and that's beautiful. Go thank your local leaders. But if you're not, and if you feel like you have been ignored, unheard, cast aside, or you are just so damn busy, then it's not on you to figure this out. It's on kind of all of us that are on this call to be as absolutely creative and as possible to try to connect. And so that's sort of where we start with everything. We always start with who's not in the room with these decisions right now. Like, what is this issue that's going on, or this even topic? Let's say it's not even related to something time sensitive, but it's like it could be something that's, loneliness or friendship or forgiveness. It could be something as like kind of very important in a community, but there's not a policy coming down the road right now. Well, who's not in the room with that, but also with a policy? You should get them involved right away. Then stretch yourself. I think that the truth is that artists, I think there's a poisonous idea that we all learn. I was at least a decade into a career of my full-time life job was making art. And that's when I first started even calling myself an artist, because in second and third grade, I wasn't good at drawing. So I'm not an artist. That is so poisonous. And I think all of us are, but I think you can get people who are artists and creative people in from the beginning as well to brainstorm whatever it is. And then I also think, and I don't even know if I'm answering what the question was, but I think that, we lead with culture, and art maybe can feel like a little exclusive to people as well, but people will do what they love and they'll do what is meaningful. And so that's why like our work in the suburbs, these civic house parties, that's all that run by a team of seven women. Most of them are refugees, some are immigrants, and some are fourth generation from this suburb. And they came up with these civic house parties because it was this realistic way of like, there aren't great spaces where they were to meet and gather. They also aren't safe for everyone, or don't feel safe for everyone. but homes are. And so I think that's part of this as well. Is like that think of that limited time people have, and how can you make it fun and joyous and meaningful, and connected.
Yeah. I want to address a couple of things in the chat and in the Q&A really quick. People are asking like, how do we reach these groups? Like, how do we connect? So on my end, I can tell you that we have across the country, there are not only state arts councils in your government, like in your state government, but there are also local arts councils who will know directly the arts organizations and cultural organizations in your community. So they're just one email away, and you'll be able to reach them and say, hey, I'm looking for arts organizations who can partner with me on this. And they'll send you contact information for all of them. So just wanted to showcase that. And then someone in the chat had said, we can't afford to do something like that, but maybe we can reach out to organizations who can. That is absolutely what you can do. You can say, hey, we have some time that we can spend on this. We have resources, we have educational items. We just can't make the large event. That's why you want to build these coalitions and bring people together, because you guys can each kind of help make a piece of the pie, which is an event. But Evan, I know you have a lot of experience with something like that. Can you talk on that a little bit too? Sorry, I'm asking a question.
Yeah. No, that's cool. I'm particularly bad at
Collaboration.
like following chats and things like that. So if there's something, please someone just shout it out or hit me up afterwards. I'm happy to answer. But yeah, I mean, the budget thing, when I started Warm Cookies in 2012, and it would be a lie to say I didn't have some privilege. Like, I got publicity for leaving the theater that I was at, and I had access to spaces. I had a key to the theater. That's a big privilege, but I didn't have any money. And until very recently, we never got funded with any sort of like big money. And we still, a lot of the things that we do, my co-director who you heard in the first video, Melina, he does all of our rural work. This whole month, he was just in 13 different communities in Colorado, rural communities mostly in the San Luis Valley, which is the poorest economically, the poorest part of the state. It's one of the poorest in the country. And everywhere has a little bit of space, and people can bring stuff together and literally make some soup together. And there are always incredible artists. So the money thing, that shouldn't be too much of a barrier. It can be the bigger you get, of course. But I think if I was understanding this, the way you find people in this way is you do have to, there isn't a quick fix. So a lot of times we get approached by people who, a lot of municipalities, they're like, we're doing this fair housing study, or we're doing this, and there's this population that we just can't get to them, and they'll ask us, and we're first like, well, we don't know your community. We're happy to try to help, but we don't know the community. But that's the thing, is if it's not you, and if you look around and your group are, let's say, seniors, and you have a limited amount, then some of you are going to have to try something. You got to talk to a grandkid, or go to the barber shop, or go somewhere and make those links in whatever way you can diversify. One, it's enriching, just period. So, and then I think the next thing is, once you get the people, because I imagine this would be people's brains now, is once you get people there. So let's say you've made something interesting, you have sort of experts in, that doesn't mean a PhD, that means whoever's like most direct to something there. You've made it fun enough, and you get people in somewhere. I think the next part is actually easy. Once you have them, if you're trying to do, sign up for this ballot initiative or something like that, I think that's very easy. Now, the trick is push yourself to then make it fun, like you saw that tax day carnival. Asking groups who work really narrow on things, ask them to shake it up. Like if people came to you all who are working on voter engagement and we're like, this is what we do with that tax day carnival. We say, you nerd groups, you can't come and bore people about taxes. We're going to work with you on, you have to come up with a game that'll get across what you do. And they love it because it's fun when you get to shake out of your routine as well. So it definitely relies on collaboration and sort of coalition building in that way.
100%. And I think collaboration is the name of the game with this. Also trust of communities, right? Communities have to trust you to show up to make it fun and not just drudgery, because taxes, not many people think carnival when they think taxes. And so yeah, giving something that they're not expecting, but enough trust in the community to make it worth showing up for. This is all fabulous. I'm going to pull a couple of questions from the Q&A that I think are really relevant here. This one is directed at Evan, but I think also, Morgan, you could probably respond to this. So this person asked, do you follow up with people to see if they're being moved toward the polls or toward more participation? I think this applies to a lot of programs that we end up doing, right? Sometimes we do the program when we have no idea what happens after they go home, and like, are they actually moved? Is there a way that either of you is looking at like tracking that data or anything? Like, what does that look like for you?
Yeah. So I personally, like Evan, have always been like, yeah, whatever. I don't, because I'm coming from an art world of like, what, it doesn't matter, but it does matter very much. Well, I'm bad at it. Anytime anyone has given us any data when they have looked at stuff, then I tell everyone about it. I'm like, oh, did you know that this is what happens? So we've had a few different series of university researchers who have come to our events, have done polls, have done qualitative and quantitative research. And so on that end, yeah, by and large, we know who comes. Like we have a very particular lens. So we're trying to get people who are not typical civic decision makers. So we're heavily working class, we're heavily refugees, immigrants, folks of color, young people, and elders. We're rural, suburban. So it's that we are heavily women. But in terms of that civic action piece, the last time we did it, it was 72% of people take some kind of civic action after interacting with us, which can be anything from writing a congressperson or a local official to joining. So the way that we work is we are able to get people, and we kind of get people who probably wouldn't be in the same room unless they were at like a NFL game or a pop concert. And then we often funnel them to other groups. We say, oh, you came to this thing on housing. Here's these groups that do housing. You came on immigrant stuff. This is a group that does it. So that's a way as well that we by pushing people to other groups. So we're not trying to really keep people in any sort of way, but we also probably bad at it. Additionally, because something like these, like we make these board books. This was like what that was adapted from that presentation. We made this book. So this is like you read these to little babies. And we have these in 8 languages, but we place these, and this is just like Denver. We place these in barbershops and community centers, and it's so people can kind of see themselves. And I don't know what the hell happens with these, is the truth, but I know we've given away and sold a lot of them, and so I don't track that. And someone smarter than me probably would and could.
I love that. Start them young. But yeah, for us with evaluation, for us right now, it's all about listening. I mean, we've done so many different kind of iterations of Arts Vote. We've had a podcast, we've had, webinar series like we're doing now. We've had different tools where we're, kind of analyzing how many people have downloaded this, how many people have done X, Y, or Z, registered for a webinar. And now we kind of sat down and we listened. And that big thing for us was, you guys need to do this year round. It can't just be every election year. It has to be all the time. It has to be continuing to build, because there's also so many votes that happened outside of just an even election year. Look at how, last year was incredible. So we want to be there for those moments, and we want to be integrated into those elections, not only at the federal level, because we just understand how important it is. So that's kind of what we're looking towards next, is like, how do we continue to listen and gain that qualitative data while also still seeing all of the numbers. But that's what we're doing right now. It's not too much, but we're going to continue to do that. But if you have a registration table, count them up, so that's good.
Yeah. Yeah. It does depend. And I know, yeah, depends on the work you're doing and all that. There's one more question I want to lift up from the Q&A box. And that is, how do these events encourage civic engagement specifically? This person said, Miami has plenty of events, but how do you turn that into civic engagement? So to either of you, want to start there?
Yeah, I would love to jump in there. I saw that question. Hey, Miami. Yeah, we have so many events, and how do you imbue that? I think at first you got to reach out. You got to find a way to get in there. If there's an event that you're like, this isn't a great community event, you reach out, you say, I want to be a part of it. I think that's a great way to go. And you continue to build that relationship with that organization that's putting on the event or company or whatever it may be. You know, some things that Gwen and I were talking about is going to a bar during World Cup and having conversations with people nearby and just like getting the conversation going with people in your community. That's a way to start and see how you can blend what you want to talk about into someone's everyday life. But also, Evan, I did want to ask you something. In one of your videos, it said, you know, that a concert is our competition. And I almost sometimes see it for me as an opportunity. Like, how can we be a part of that musical experience too? Like, you know, during intermission at a theater, could you have a booth there? Could you have a backdrop of the art from the community that people can take pictures in front of and post to Instagram and get involved? And like, how can people show up where they're going to show up anyway and have that be in their face too? So like, I think there are definitely opportunities to imbue what we're doing into existing things. But I will say a lot of them are priced out. A lot of them are way too expensive for people to attend, and I understand that. And so I wanted to showcase that piece of it. There's going to be community theaters that are a lot more accessible as well. And I think, Evan, you're creating that other side. You're creating how can all of our communities, underserved communities, communities that don't have access, you know, continue to gain this knowledge and be a part of it too. So I wanted to showcase that because I think we can be doing both. Absolutely.
Yeah, no, that's great. And I agree. You know, one of the things we were always pushing when we were starting here in Denver was to city council, like have meetings at a minimum, have a band just play right before. You're going to get the bassist's boyfriend or girlfriend and like a couple family members. You're going to get some more people there. So there is that. Also, like we have the most famous music venue, Red Rocks, and it's a city-owned venue. And everyone's sitting there staring at a screen. You know, we could be saying, hey, here's what's happening. Here's what you can do. We've been pushing on that side. But the competition part is, if I go see a music show this month and get a babysitter and go out to dinner, I'm probably not going to something else in a while. That's what I mean is we have to make the experiences that people have, that it's competition in that way. But I agree with you on that other point. And then also like I do encourage people, if you get time, if you go on our website and go to our programs, you can see those things I went through real fast because I didn't get to explain them. But like our program, the Huddle, is that like we're in sports bars, but we only talk at halftime. Because that's the other thing is you can't go into a sports bar and just tell people like, you need to save the whales. Don't you understand what you're doing? And you're going to ruin their time, and that's their safe place. So just at halftime, and you need to do it with people. And that's for any group that you do. If I know we're going out of time, can I show like it's like a 1.5-minute video? This will go to the answer of how do you turn this into civic engagement? I'll show you the context and I'll see if I need to explain anything.
It's called Has a Soul. The idea being that for a lot of the community issues, for budgeting is what we're working on. Who makes decisions on dollars? That's when you know if people care. The way the process works now, most people don't feel connected, and it doesn't feel like there's a human element for most people. And how can we put a soul back into the machinery of budgeting? This project was one part participatory budgeting, and the other part was art in service of that, as an educational tool and as a way of engaging people and saying, hey, come take part in this. And then in August of 2018, in a 2-story garage in Swansea, we have this installation with tons of paintings and murals and a little museum and Hot Wheels tracks and a car. And then inside of this 2-story garage, we have videos of many, many artists and residents telling their story and talking about what is important to them and how they deal creatively with obstacles. And the best part of this is that we're not done. We are hoping to push for participatory budgeting in Denver so that it's part of how government works, that we have a participatory budgeting system. And so we're going to keep pushing for it. And we want to make sure that the arts keep playing a crucial role in both educating people about it and engaging them to be a part of the process.
Okay, well, what I'll say is that process was a group of people, group of women, 5 Black women in Denver who decided they wanted to do participatory budgeting. And that is the nerdiest sounding thing you could imagine. And so we worked specifically to try to say, what is it that we can do to engage our neighbors? And so we brought art as part of it. Then we did kind of what you saw there. Plus we trained city council staff. It was a multi-year process, but we finally did win. We got the city of Denver to adopt participatory budgeting. It's now going into its 4th year. And it's small, and I'm probably its biggest critic as well. One of the women who was a main lead got on city council. Another is running for it now. So they've gotten incredibly civically engaged because of this. And it really was led by art and creativity. Excuse me.
Yeah. I think that's the catalyst. It's the connections that are made. It's when you get people in a room together. And getting them there and then seeing what blossoms. I could talk to you both about all of this for like hours and hours and hours, because it is so crucial, especially in this moment. But we do have to wrap. But please do know, those of you who are attending, that you will receive the recording of this. You will receive all of the links that have been put in the chat. We will share out. So please do follow up there as you're able to. And just a huge thank you to Evan and Morgan. This is so crucial at this moment. As I said in the beginning, we are all in need of some joy, some thinking outside of the box. And this is a wonderful fit for that. I will share our call to action today, which is we need to find, Evan, a more exciting way to talk about the Office of Management and Budget. But this is a proposed rule that this office is considering that could potentially make it prevent nonprofits who receive federal funding from doing voter registration particularly, but also some pieces of advocacy. There is more info that will be put in the chat here. We've got an overview on our website of what that looks like. But if you are doing voter engagement work and if you are receiving federal funds in particular, or if you just want to submit a comment about this because you care about this, comments are being accepted through July 13th. So you can read a little bit about the rule. Don't read the whole rule unless you just have endless time and want to read 400 something pages of policy, but submit a comment. We've got sample language on our website, and then share this explainer with a colleague and encourage other folks to do that. I think this is getting slid under the radar a little bit, and we want to make sure that we are amplifying the need for these comments. So with that, I will just say thank you all so much. I feel energized after this, and I know that you all do too. Morgan and Evan, just appreciate you both so much for all that you're bringing today and all of the days. So thanks everyone for attending, and we'll see you next time.